Okay guys, welcome back to the next episode of our memory game. Today we're going to be working on two main things. The first main thing is going to be getting the animations for our buttons to work and our cards, and the next main thing is going to be getting our cards to actually do something. So we're going to add some listeners onto our cards so that we can actually press them and then see something happen, so that later on when we go ahead and assign cards to them, when you go ahead and flip them, we can use the listeners that we've already added onto them. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Shouldn't take too long. We are going to jump straight into our game here and start working on the animations of the buttons. It shouldn't take too long. I think we will only add in a hover effect and a pressed animation, so that way you can actually see something happening when you go ahead and hover over the buttons and press them. So let's go ahead and jump straight into it. And let's do it. So this is our game. This is where we left off last time. So if we play our game, you can see that when we hover over the button and we press it, nothing actually happens. It just jumps straight to the next scene. We don't want that. We want to have something happen, so some UI change, so that we can see that it actually does something and it's not just still. It looks better. So if we select our button here, we can go ahead and add an animation onto this. And I have made a tutorial about this in more detail, I think, so I will put the link for that in the description. But for now, let's go ahead and do this quickly. So I'm going to add a new button onto here, or a new animation onto here, and this is going to be called hover. Well, let's call it hover. And I'm going to create a new folder for this called animations. We'll go and put that in there. So now we want to go to our animations here, make sure our button is selected. I'm going to change this to highlighted so that we can do the hover one. So what do we want to do? We want to, when you hover over a button, I think we want to make it a little bit bigger, and then when we press it, we want to make it a little bit smaller. We'll see how that looks. So let's go and set the scale to probably 1.2 on the x-axis and 1.2 on the y-axis, I think. Okay, so that, I think that's fine. Let's go and test this out. Okay, so you can see now that we hover over this button, we can actually see something happening. So I think that's a bit too big, so let's go and change that again. Yeah, highlighted. Okay, so let's go and delete that. And then over here, I think we put 1.2, let's try 1.1. What am I doing? Need to record. So record this, change this from 1.1 and 1.1. Cool, that's fine. And then I think I'm just going to create a pressed one right here. Then we want to go to 1.1. Actually, how do you do this? We want to, let's see what the hover one looks like first. Where's our button gone? Highlighted. The button has disappeared. Oh, that's how I've seen. Let's just undo things here quick and see what's happening. Okay, let's start this game. Button, let's add an animation. We will, no clip. Okay, animation. Okay, I don't know what's going on. Let's try this again. Create a animation. Let's call this pressed. We will save it in our animations folder here. That will be our pressed, and then add a, okay, we don't want to do that. We want to record and go from, well, we want to make this smaller, so we'll go 1 by 1. Okay, we'll save that. Oh, let's go 0.99 to 0.99, like that. Save that. And then let's play the game and see if we still have that hover animation. So you can see that we don't have. Let's have a look in our animations folder here. So animations, hover, and pressed. I'm gonna go ahead and just delete both of these quick. Let's just start this again because I don't know what happened. Delete those, and then on our button here, let's go from none. Let's go animation, auto generate animation. So in our animations folder, let's call this hover. We'll save that. So we will start recording this and go from 1 to 1.1 and 1.1. Save that, and then we will do a pressed animation, and then we will what is it? Start recording, and then go from 1.1, then slightly, let's go to 1. So we'll save that, and then let's play this and see if that actually works. So we can hover, and then when we press it, okay, something does happen, but we don't want that animation to loop. So if we go onto here, or rather onto our press, let's deselect, well, unselect our loop time, and then let's see if that works. So we'll click, okay, so we might need to make that scale effect a little bit bigger. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get rid of this, and then we will get rid of our hover animation. I know I'm making this way more complicated than it needs to be, but let's do this. Animations, we will just make a pressed animation, and then in here we will record this, and whenever we press it we want to scale it up to 1.1 like that. So let's play that and see what happens. So if we, what is happening? Normal trigger. Okay, so let's go and play. We still have a hover animation, which is not correct. Okay, so let's do this again. On our button, let's go and press none, and then put it back to visualize or animation. So I'm going to remove that, and then on our pressed animation here, in our scene, let's have a look and see. In our pressed animation, we want to scale this up to 1.1. Save that, and then I think that's it. So let's see. Normal, highlighted. Actually, we might just have to delete those. So let's play the game and see. We still have that. Okay, so we don't have. Okay, so that's what we want. So we don't have a hover effect anymore. But we have, whenever we click the button, you can see something happening. So that's cool. So now we can go ahead and add that animation to our other buttons. So if we go into, where is it? Our level select scene. We can select all of these buttons. That one, that one, that one, and that one. And then on here we can add in a color tint animation, and then I think that's fine. So let's go and see if that works. So okay, so that doesn't work, so we need to, on these, let's just do it again quick. So 1, 2, and 3, generate auto. Let's see, where's our animator? Here is our... we might need to add in our animator onto here. So let's go into our menu select scene, click on our button and see what's here, animator. Okay, so we've got our animator there. So let's go and add in our animator onto all of these buttons. So easy, medium, hard and back. Let us add in a animator, and then on there we want to go back to our menu scene, save that, and on this button let us copy component and go back to our level select scene and then select these buttons again, and then we can simply go and paste component values. Name. Okay, so now hopefully that will work. Okay, so now we have that scale effect whenever we press a button. So we'll press it and it pops us into our game. Okay, so that's fine. So now we want to quickly go into our game scene, and whenever we click on a game scene, or when we choose a level select option and it takes us to our cards here, I want to add the opposite into here. So I don't want to add a press effect, I want to add in a scale effect or a hover scale effect. So whenever you hover over the cards, I want them to move a little bit. So on our, where is it? Let's go and see. I think we have a card button here. So if we zoom, okay, so let's see. If we play the game quickly, let us play easy. So okay, so in our game scene we have on our game board, we need to add in an animation. Okay, so let's see, game board. We jump into our script here and see where we actually add buttons. Okay, so add button, game object, card button. So I think we are using, where is it? Game board, card button. Okay, so this is, we're using our card button over here. So let's go in here and add in an animator. And then here we need to first create a animation. Where is it? So let's go back onto our game scene here. Where is, no, our level select scene. And then select one of these and let's see, hard button. Do we have a button? Yeah, so here, there he is. Okay, so animation, that's fine. Generate auto animation, or whatever it's called, auto generate animation. So in here we want to create a hover. So save that. I'm going to record this, and then on our button I'm going to scale it up by 0.5, or rather let's go and say 1.05. We'll see what that looks like. 1.05, just like that. So we'll save that. Okay, and then I think that's pretty much it. So the hover is in there, that's good. So let's go back to, we'll save this and we'll go back to our game scene, or our level select scene, so we can choose some cards. So if we choose easy, okay, so we don't get our hover effect. So let's see what's happening. Canvas, game board, is this been added? Animator, controller, none. Okay, so our animation has not been assigned. Okay, so let's figure this out quick. So if we go into our, where we are in our game scene. No, we need to go to our level select scene, into our canvas, and go onto here. Okay, so our controller needs to be the animation controller, which is fine. And then where is it? Okay, so let's go and see. We need to assign our controller by adding the hover controller into there, and then obviously I'm guessing we need to assign our hover loop, or our highlighted loop animation on top of that. So let us go into our script here. So whenever we create a button, let's get rid of this because this is what we're going to be doing later. So whenever we create a button, we need to go and assign the animation to it. So to do that, we need to get a reference to our animation. So here, let's say serialize field. This will be a private, and then I think this needs to be a controller. Let's try this. Let's go in here and see animator. Let's try animator. And this we will call animator, like that. So we'll save that and then jump back into here. So now we clear those errors and then go back into our card button here. Rather, where are we? We need to go to our game scene, I think, and then on our game board in here, I think it is, there it is, so animator. Okay, so that's not going to work. Okay, so we might need to think of a different way to this, because we can't put that on there because it needs to be on every individual button. So actually maybe we could. Let's go back and do that. So here we'll undo that, and then what am I doing? In here we'll say button dot add component animator. Here we will go and add in like that, and then here we will say button dot, what is it? Let's see. Okay, first of all, let's see if this works quick. So we'll play the game, and then, okay, we need to go back into our level select scene, play the game again, and then select an option. So now if we select, if we select a button, here we already have an animator. Okay, so that's not what we need. We need to, let's go and do this again. What do we need to do? Let's go and start this game. Let's think about this. So click easy, and then on our canvas, go to our game board. So on our button here, we need to assign on our animator that value into our controller. Okay, so let's see. So on our button, we need to go and say button.get component animator, like that. Okay, so now we can say, let's try this, button animator dot animator, let's see. So we need to somehow assign our controller on our animation. So let's go and open up Google here, and we will say how to assign can't type an animator let's see, animator. Okay, get the animator off of it. Yeah, animator that run animation controller. Okay, let's try this. So if we go back into our script here, instead of having our animator, because we don't really need that, we will save that, and then let's see if we can go and drag this into there. So canvas, no, in our where is it? In our game scene, on our game board, I think it is. There it is. New controller. Let's drag in our hover into. Okay, so we can drag that in, so that's good. So now let us go into here, and on here we need to say let's go and say button so we get the animator off of our button, and then here we could say button animator dot what is it, dot runtime controller is equal to new controller. So we'll see if that works. So we'll save that and jump back into our game here. Go to our, where is it? Our level select scene again, play it. So hopefully now if we press easy, okay, so there we go, there's our animation on our buttons or on our cards. The only thing we need to do is we need to get that that little, what is it called? The space between our buttons. But that's not important, we'll leave that for another episode. Let's try and finish this episode quickly. So now what we're going to do is when we play the game, we want to go and add in a function. So when we click on a card, you can see in our console nothing actually happens. So let's go and add in some what is it called? A method or a listener onto our buttons here. So in our game manager here, we want to go and add in a new method called add card listener, like that, and this needs to be, what is it? We'll call this, let's just call this private void. Okay, so in here we want to go through each of our buttons that we have in our scene. So in other words, go through for every card that we have in our scene or on the game board. We want to go through each of those and add in a listener onto those. So for that we can go and say, since we already have our card button list here, we can automatically go and say for each card, rather a button first because it is a button. So button card in our card button list. So that's going to go through all of our buttons in our list and do something. So in here, let's go and add in a listener. So for our card, we want to go and add or on click dot add listener, and then in here we can go and assign it our method that we want. So here, instead of having to select all of our buttons, let me show you. So the normal way of adding a method onto a button is to simply select, let's go out of it, is to simply select a button and then add a on-click event in here. But since our cards in the scene, in our game scene, don't actually appear in the scene unless we play the game, we can't go and drag them in. So to do that, we are going to go through each card in the scene, and then go and assign a on-click method in here, but programmatically. So to do that, previously you would drag your game object here and then press the plus icon and then select the script that you want and then select the method. That is, we're going to do that but we're going to do that in this method here. So we need to create another method to tell our button to call whenever we press it. So here we will say public, or I think we can say private because we don't have to access it in the inspector. So private void card flipped, because that's what we're going to do when we press a card. So here we can go and assign this by simply pressing open our brackets, and then we can say equals arrow, and then we can type the name of the method, so card flipped, like that. So that is going to assign this method to each of our cards whenever they get instantiated into the scene. So here we can go and say debug.log, and then let's just say card flipped. Okay, so that's cool. Let's go and save that, and then actually let's go and say, yeah, we'll leave it like that for now. Okay, so at the start of our game, whenever we go and instantiate these these cards, we want to go and add the listener onto them. So after we get all of our buttons, let's go and add our add card listeners to them by simply calling this method straight after our get button. So in here we can go and say add listeners. Okay, so let's jump back into here and we'll go out of our game. We'll go out so that we can start this game. So let's go and press play on our menu, level select, and press easy. Okay, so now before we press it, I know we can press it and see if it works, but let's go and see if this works. So that clearly didn't work. So if we press on our, okay, so it does work. It just doesn't show up in the inspector. That's strange. But anyway, it's working. So now you can see that whenever we press a card, we get this method, this message called, or the method called, and then a message gets printed in our debug.log in our console here that says card flipped. So that's working nicely. Another step closer to flipping the cards. So I think let's go out of here and see what else we can do. Okay, so let's just try something quickly. So in here, let's pass in our card. So let's go and say button card, and then in here we will pass in a card. Get rid of our vector too. I don't know why that happened. Okay, so in here let's say card, and then here we will say card dot name flipped. Okay, so let's see if this works. So now we should be able to keep track of which card we are flipping. So if we press easy and we press on the first one, it should say card 0 flipped, and if we press on the last one, it should say cards 19 flipped, because there's 20 cards in the stack. Okay, so that works nicely. Let's go and press play on our medium just to make sure this also works. So we can press that, so card 15 pressed and card 39. Okay, so that works. And then again on the hard one, so we still need to figure this out. As you can see, the cards are going off the screen, and if we press on the last one, which is not actually the last one, that is the 50th card, but I think that's only half of them. As you can see, we have 100 cards in this one, so we need to figure out a way to rescale these, and then also add the spacing in between them. So let's go and do that now quickly. What's the time? 28. Okay, I think we'll leave that until next episode. So that's what we'll do next episode. The next episode we will go ahead and start working on adding the spacing in between the cards, and then also fixing that issue on where our cards overflow off the screen because there's so many and they are too big. So we need to go and resize the cards, and then I think, depending on how long that will take, we will probably also start working on assigning a card to one of those cards. So when we click on the card, we want it to flip around and reveal a specific card. So that's what we will probably start working on in the next episode. But yeah, that's it for this episode. So thank you so much for watching, and if you want to watch the next ones, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next episode. So thank you so much for watching again, and goodbye.